Section 4 of The Dream of the Red Chamber, Book 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Sylvie Roth. The Dream of the Red Chamber, Book 2 by Xueqin. Translated by Henry Bencraft Joly. Chapter 26, Part 2. Saying this, he continued his way, and straightway reached the entrance of a court. Here the bamboo foliage was thick, and the breeze sighed gently. This was the Shaoshang Lodge. Baoyu listlessly rambled in. He saw a bamboo portiere hanging down to the ground. Stillness prevailed. Not a human voice fell on the ear. He advanced as far as the window. Noticing that a whiff of subtle scent stole softly through the green gauze casement, Baoyu applied his face closely against the frame to peep in, but suddenly he caught the faint sound of a deep sigh and the words, "Day after day my feelings slumber drowsily." Upon overhearing this exclamation, Baoyu unconsciously began to feel a prey to inward longings. But casting a second glance, he saw Daiyu stretching herself on the bed. "Why is it," smiled Baoyu from outside the window, "that your feelings day after day slumber drowsily?" So saying, he raised the portiere and stepped in. The consciousness that she had not been reticent about her feelings made Daiyu unwittingly flush scarlet. Taking hold of her sleeve, she screened her face, and turning her body round towards the inside, she pretended to be fast asleep. Baoyu drew near her. He was about to pull her round when he saw Daiyu's nurse enter the apartment, followed by two matrons. "Is Miss asleep?" they said. "If so, we'll ask her over when she wakes up." As these words were being spoken, Daiyu eagerly twisted herself round and sat up. "Who's asleep?" she laughed. "We thought you were fast asleep, miss," smiled the two or three matrons as soon as they perceived Daiyu get up. This greeting over, they called Xueqin. "Your young mistress," they said, "has awoke. Come in and wait on her." While calling her, they quitted the room in a body. Daiyu remained seated on the bed. Raising her arms, she adjusted her hair, and smilingly she observed to Baoyu, "When people are asleep, what do you walk in for?" At the sight of her half-closed star-like eyes and of her fragrant cheeks, suffused with a crimson blush, Baoyu's feelings were of a sudden awakened, so bending his body he took a seat on a chair and asked with a smile, "What were you saying a short while back?" "I wasn't saying anything," Daiyu replied. "What a lie you're trying to ram down my throat," laughed Baoyu. "I heard all." But in the middle of their colloquy, they saw Xueqin enter. Baoyu then put on a smiling face. "Xueqin," he cried, "pour me a cup of your good tea." "Where's the good tea to be had?" Xueqin answered. "If you want good tea, you'd better wait till Shiren comes." "Don't heed him," interposed Daiyu. "Just go first and draw me some water." "He's a visitor," remonstrated Xueqin, "and of course I should first pour him a cup of tea and then go and draw the water." With this answer she started to serve the tea. "My dear girl," Baoyu exclaimed laughingly, "if I could only share the same bridal curtain with your lovable young mistress, would I ever be able to treat you as a servant by making you fold the covers and make the beds?" Lin Daiyu at once drooped her head. "What are you saying?" she remonstrated. "What? Did I say anything?" smiled Baoyu. Daiyu burst into tears. "You've recently," she observed, "got into a new way. Whatever slang you happen to hear outside, you come and tell me. And whenever you read any improper book, you poke your fun at me. What? Have I become a laughing-stock for gentlemen?" As she began to cry, she jumped down from the bed and promptly left the room. Baoyu was at a loss how to act. So agitated was he that he hastily ran up to her. "My dear cousin," he pleaded, "I do deserve death. But don't go and tell anyone. If again I venture to utter such kind of language, may blisters grow on my mouth, and may my tongue waste away." But while appealing to her feelings, he saw Xueqin approach him. "Go back at once," she cried, "and put on your clothes, as master wants to see you." At the very mention of his father, Baoyu felt suddenly as if struck by lightning. Regardless of everything and anything, he rushed as fast as possible back to his room, and changing his clothes he came out into the garden. Here he discovered Bei Ming, standing at the second gateway, waiting for him. "Do you perchance know what he wants me for?" Baoyu inquired. "Master, hurry out at once," Bei Ming replied. "You must, of course, go and see him. When you get there, you are sure to find out what it's all about." This said, he urged Baoyu on, and together they turned past the large pavilion. Baoyu was, however, still laboring under suspicion, when he heard, from the corner of the wall, a loud outburst of laughter. Upon turning his head round, he caught sight of Xueqin jump out, clapping his hands. "Hadn't I said that my uncle wanted you?" he laughed. "Wouldn't you ever have rushed out with such alacrity?" Bei Ming also laughed and fell on his knees, but Baoyu remained for a long time under the spell of utter astonishment, before he at length realized that it was Xueqin who had inveigled him to come out. Xueqin hastily made a salutation and a curtsy, and confessed his fault. He next gave way to entreaties, saying, "Don't punish the young servant, for it is simply I who begged him go." Baoyu, too, had then no other alternative but to smile. "I don't mind your playing your larks on me, but why," he inquired, "did you mention my father? Were I to go and tell my aunt, your mother, to see to the rights and the wrongs of the case, how would you like it?" "My dear cousin," remarked Xueqin vehemently, "the primary idea I had in view was to ask you to come out a moment sooner, and I forgot to respectfully shun the expression. But by and by, when you wish to chaff me, just you likewise allude to my father, and will thus be square." "Ai ya!" exclaimed Baoyu, "you do more than ever deserve death." Then, turning again towards Bei Ming, "You ruffian," he said, "what are you still kneeling for?" Bei Ming began to bump his head on the ground with vehemence. "Had it been for anything else," Xueqin chimed in, "I wouldn't have made bold to disturb you. But it's simply in connection with my birthday, which is tomorrow, the 3rd day of the 5th moon. Xing, who is in that curio shop of ours, unexpectedly brought along, goodness knows where he fished them from, fresh lotus so thick and so long, so mealy and so crisp, melons of this size, and a Siamese porpoise, that long and that big, smoked with cedar, such as is sent as tribute from the kingdom of Siam. Are not these 4 presents, pray, rare delicacies? The porpoise is not only expensive, but difficult to get, and that kind of lotus and melon must have cost him no end of trouble to grow. I lost no time in presenting some to my mother, and at once sent some to your old grandmother and my aunt. But a good many of them still remain now, and were I to eat them all alone, it would, I fear, be more than I deserve. So I concluded, after thinking right and left, that there was, besides myself, only you good enough to partake of some. That is why I specially invite you to taste them. But, as luck would have it, a young singing boy has also come, so what do you say to you and I having a jolly day of it?" As they talked, they walked, and as they walked, they reached the interior of the library. Here they discovered a whole assemblage consisting of Tan Kuang, Chen Rixing, Hu Qi Lai, Dan Qing Zhen, and others, and the singing boy as well. As soon as these saw Baoyu walk in, some paid their respects to him, others inquired how he was, and after the interchange of salutations, tea was drunk. Xueqin then gave orders to serve the wine. Scarcely were the words out of his mouth than the servant lads bustled and fussed for a long while laying the table. When at last the necessary arrangements had been completed, the company took their seats. Baoyu verily found the melons and lotus of an exceptional description. My birthday presents have not as yet been sent round, he felt impelled to say, a smile on his lips, and here I come, ahead of them, to trespass on your hospitality. Just so, retorted Xueqin, but when you come tomorrow to congratulate me, we'll consider what novel kind of present you can give me. I've got nothing that I can give you, rejoined Baoyu. As far as money, clothes, eatables, and other such articles go, they are not really mine. All I can call my own are such pages of characters that I may write, or pictures that I may draw. Your references to pictures, added Xueqin, smiling, reminds me of a book I saw yesterday, containing immodest drawings. They were truly beautifully done. On the front page there figured also a whole lot of characters, but I didn't carefully look at them. I simply noticed the name of the person who had executed them. It was, in fact, something or other like Kung Huang. The pictures were actually exceedingly good. This allusion made Baoyu exercise his mind with innumerable conjectures. Of pictures drawn from past years to the present, I have, he said, seen a good many, but I've never come across any Kung Huang. After considerable thought, he could not repress himself from bursting out laughing. Then, asking a servant to fetch him a pencil, he wrote a couple of words on the palm of his hand. This done, he went on to inquire of Xueqin, "Did you see correctly that it read Kung Huang?" "How could I not have seen correctly?" ejaculated Xueqin. Baoyu thereupon unclenched his hand and allowed him to peruse what was written on it. "Were they possibly these two characters?" he remarked. "These are, in point of fact, not very dissimilar from what Kung Huang looked like." On scrutinizing them, the company noticed the two words Tang Yin, and they all laughed. "They must, we fancy, have been these two characters," they cried. "Your eyes, sir, may, there's no saying, have suddenly grown dim." Xueqin felt utterly abashed. Who could have said, he smiled, whether they were Tang Yin or Guo Yin, candied silver or fruit silver? As he cracked this joke, however, a young page came and announced that Mr. Feng had arrived. Baoyu concluded that the newcomer must be Feng Ziying, the son of Feng Tang, general with the prefix of Shanwu. "Ask him in at once," Xueqin and his companions shouted with one voice. But barely were these words out of their mouths than they realized that Feng Ziying had already stepped in, talking and laughing as he approached. The company speedily rose from table and offered him a seat. "That's right," smiled Feng Ziying. "You don't go out of doors, but remain at home and go in for high fun." Both Baoyu and Xueqin put on a smile. "We haven't," they remarked, "seen you for ever so long. Is your venerable father strong and hale?" "My father," rejoined Ziying, "is, thanks to you, strong and hale. But my mother recently contracted a sudden chill and has been unwell for a couple of days." Xueqin discerned on his face a slight bluish wound. "With whom have you again been boxing," he laughingly inquired, "that you've hung up this signboard?" "Since the occasion," laughed Feng Ziying, "on which I wounded Lieutenant Colonel Chou's son, I've borne the lesson in mind and never lost my temper. So how is it you say that I've again been boxing? This thing on my face was caused when I was out shooting the other day, on the Tiewang Hills, by a flap from the wing of a falcon." "When was that?" asked Baoyu. "I started," explained Ziying, "on the 28th day of the 3rd moon, and came back only the day before yesterday." "It isn't to be wondered at, then," observed Baoyu, "that when I went the other day, on the 3rd and 4th, to a banquet at friend Shun's house, I didn't see you there. Yet I meant to have inquired about you, but I don't know how it slipped from my memory. Did you go alone, or did your venerable father accompany you?" Of course my father went, Xue replied, so I had no help but to go. For it is likely, forsooth, that I've gone mad from lack of anything to do. Don't we, a goodly number as we are, derive enough pleasure from our wine bouts and plays that I should go in quest of such kind of fatiguing recreation? But in this instance, a great piece of good fortune turned up in evil fortune. Xueqin and his companions noticed that he had finished his tea. Come along, they one and all proposed, and join the banquet. You can then quietly recount to us all your experiences. At this suggestion, Feng Ziying there and then rose to his feet. According to etiquette, he said, I should join you in drinking a few cups. But today I have still a very urgent matter to see my father about on my return, so that I truly cannot accept your invitation. Xueqin, Baoyu, and the other young fellows would on no account listen to his excuses. They pulled him vigorously about and would not let him go. This is indeed strange, laughed Feng Ziying. When have you and I had, during all these years, to have recourse to such proceedings? I really am unable to comply with your wishes. But if you do insist upon making me have a drink, well, then bring a large cup, and I'll take 2 cups full and finish. After this rejoinder, the party could not but give in. Xueqin took hold of the kettle, while Baoyu grasped the cup, and they poured 2 large cups full. Feng Ziying stood up and quaffed them with 1 draught. But do, after all, urged Baoyu, finish this thing about a piece of good fortune in the midst of misfortune before you go. To tell you this today, smiled Feng Ziying, will be no great fun. But for this purpose I intend on standing a special entertainment, and inviting you all to come and have a long chat, and, in the second place, I've also got a favor to ask of you. Saying this, he pushed his way, and was going off at once, when Xueqin interposed. What you've said, he observed, has put us more than ever on pins and needles. We cannot brook any delay. Who knows when you will ask us round? So better tell us and thus avoid keeping people in suspense. The latest, rejoined Feng Ziying, in 10 days, the earliest in 8. With this answer, he went out of the door, mounted his horse, and took his departure. The party resumed their seats at table. They had another bout, and then eventually dispersed. Baoyu returned into the garden in time to find Xu Ren thinking with solicitude that he had gone to see Jia Zheng, and wonder whether it foreboded good or evil. As soon as she perceived Baoyu come back in a drunken state, she felt urged to inquire the reason of it all. Baoyu told her one by one the particulars of what happened. People, added Xu Ren, wait for you with lacerated heart and anxious mind, and there you go and make merry. Yet you could very well, after all, have sent someone with a message. Didn't I purpose sending a message? Exclaimed Baoyu. Of course I did. But I failed to do so, as on the arrival of friend Feng I got so mixed up that the intention vanished entirely from my mind. While excusing himself, he saw Baochai enter the apartment. Have you tasted any of our new things? She asked, a smile curling on her lips. Cousin, laughed Baoyu, you must have certainly tasted what you've got in your house long before us. Baochai shook her head and smiled. Yesterday, she said, my brother did actually make it a point to ask me to have some, but I had none. I told him to keep them and send them to others. So confident am I that with my mean lot and scanty blessings I little deserve to touch such dainties. As she spoke, a servant girl poured her a cup of tea and brought it to her. While she sipped it, she carried on a conversation on irrelevant matters, which we need not notice, but turn our attention to Lin Daiyu. The instant she heard that Jia Zheng had sent for Baoyu, and that he had not come back during the whole day, she felt very distressed on his account. After supper, the news of Baoyu's return reached her, and she keenly longed to see him and ask him what was up. Step by step she trudged along, while espying Baochai going into Baoyu's garden. She herself followed close in her track. But on their arrival at the Xinfang Bridge, she caught sight of the various kinds of waterfowl bathing together in the pond, and although unable to discriminate the numerous species, her gaze became so transfixed by their respective variegated and bright plumage, and by their exceptional beauty, that she halted. And it was after she had spent some considerable time in admiring them that she repaired at last to the Yihong court. The gate was already closed. Daiyu, however, lost no time in knocking. But Qing and Bihun had, who would have thought it, been having a tiff, and were in a captious mood, so upon unawares seeing Baochai step on the scene, Qing at once visited her resentment upon Baochai. She was just standing in the court, giving vent to her wrongs, shouting, "You're always running over and seating yourself here, whether you've got good reason for doing so or not. And there's no sleep for us at the third watch, middle of the night though it be," when, all of a sudden, she heard someone else calling at the door. Qing was the more moved to anger. Without even asking who it was, she rapidly bawled out, "They've all gone to sleep. You'd better come tomorrow." Lin Daiyu was well aware of the natural peculiarities of the waiting maids, and of their habit of playing practical jokes upon each other, so fearing that the girl in the inner room had failed to recognize her voice, and had refused to open under the misconception that it was some other servant girl, she gave a second shout in a higher pitch. "It's I!" she cried. "Don't you yet open the gates?" Qing as it happened, did not still distinguish her voice, and in an irritable strain she rejoined, "It's no matter who you may be. Mr. Secundus has given orders that no one at all should be allowed to come in." As these words reached Lin Daiyu's ear, she unwittingly was overcome with indignation at being left standing outside. But when on the point of raising her voice to ask her one or two things, or to start a quarrel with her, albeit, she again argued mentally, "I can call this my aunt's house, and it should be just as if it were my own. It's after all a strange place, and now that my father and mother are both dead, and that I am left with no one to rely upon, I have for the present to depend upon my family for a home. Were I now to therefore give way to a regular fit of anger with her, I'd really get no good out of it." While indulging in reflection, tears trickled from her eyes. But just as she was feeling unable to retrace her steps, and unable to remain standing any longer, and quite at a loss what to do, she overheard the sound of jocular language inside, and listening carefully, she discovered that it was indeed Baoyu and Baochai. Lin Daiyu waxed more wroth. After much thought and cogitation, the incidents of the morning flashed unawares through her memory. "It must, in fact," she mused, "be because Baoyu is angry with me for having explained to him the true reasons. But why did I ever go and tell you? You should, however, have made inquiries before you lost your tempers to such an extent with me as to refuse to let me in today. But is it likely that we shall not by and by meet face to face again?" The more she gave way to thought, the more she felt wounded and agitated, and without heeding the moss, laden with cold dew, the path covered with vegetation, and the chilly blasts of wind, she lingered all alone, under the shadow of the bushes at the corner of the wall, so thoroughly sad and dejected that she broke forth into sobs. Lin Daiyu was, indeed, endowed with exceptional beauty, and with charms rarely met with in the world. As soon, therefore, as she suddenly melted into tears, and the birds and rooks roosting on the neighboring willow boughs and branches of shrubs caught the sound of her plaintive tones, they one and all fell into a most terrific flutter, and taking to their wings, they flew away to distant recesses, so little were they able to listen with equanimity to such accents. But the spirits of the flowers were, at the time, silent and devoid of feeling. The birds were plunged in dreams, and in a state of stupor, so why did they start? A stanza appositely assigns the reason. Pinar's mental talents and looks must in the world be rare. Alone, clasped in a subtle smell, she quits her maiden room. The sound of but one single sob scarcely dies away. and drooping flowers cover the ground and birds fly in dismay. Lin Daiyu was sobbing in her solitude when a creaking noise struck her ear, and the door of the court was flung open. Who came out is not yet ascertained, but, reader, should you wish to know, the next chapter will explain. End of section 4. Recording by Sylvie Roth.